It's week 8 of the golfing calendar.
Now,
a couple of tour pros with CVs as long as the Nullarbor Links golf course. One of them is the only guy to ever beat Tiger Woods twice in match play. The other, well, it's Mark Allen. This is Talk Birdie To Me with Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen.
Can't believe we're doing our second episode from the Australian Golf headquarters, but here we are. Nick, nice to see you.
Always a pleasure, Mark.
A bit happening this week. I tell you, we picked the two best weeks imaginable to start the podcast, last week and this week, but still for me, Tiger Woods and what has happened this week is just huge. 3 birdies to make the cut, huge. Tampon Gate, huge. The fact that he's not wearing Nike shoes, to me, is huge. And I want to talk about that in a tick. How can he be paid somewhere in the scope of $100 million a year to wear Nike and you're wearing FootJoy shoes? I want to ask that question of you a little bit later. Okay. But is Jon Rahm the number one player in the world yet or not?
He just made it, actually. He just took over Scotty Scheffler. I mean... And, you know, his form's been a bit average of late. He's only won 5 of the last 10. I mean, you need a bit of a better strike rate than that, I reckon. But it's scary if you look at the numbers, how good this guy is. Funnily enough, there's a podcast in the US called No Laying Up. They're really good guys. And they call him the buoy. The buoy. Because, well, you can't sink him. He just keeps popping back up.
Well, how about that putt he made? What, the 15th, is it? Or the whatever the par 3 was.
14.
Just over the back. He's on the collar of the green. And honestly, that thing would have gone into a thimble.
Yeah, I mean, that was just unbelievable. And it was almost the first little dagger that he stuck into Max Homer, I guess you could say. It was a bit of a neck and neck the whole final day. Rahm had comfortable lead, I guess, a couple of shots up, and then it all sort of turned at 10, which, funnily enough, that 10th hole at Riviera, the short par 4, that might be involved a little bit later in the show.
Well, you've got a top 5 on the best short par 4s you've ever played.
Yeah.
Is that right? Or just short holes?
Short par 4s.
Right,
short
so that's
par
a little
4s.
later.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it sort of turned on its head there, and then all of a sudden... Homer had the lead for a bit, and then it went back and forth, and then Rahm the putter ran hot the last few holes, and it was incredible.
Why is that 10th hole so good? Jon Rahm bogeyed it, and it looked like it could have been a turning point. Why is it so tough? I mean, I saw this thing on Twitter at the start of the week, and it showed exactly where everyone was hitting their drives for the last 20 years, and there was a lot of people laying up 20 years ago. Nobody. And I mean nobody is laying up on that hole anymore. Why is it such a good par 4?
Well, the interesting thing about that stat is I think technology's played a big part about it. Back in 20, 30 years ago, quite a lot of the field couldn't get there, so you had to lay up. Balls were a little softer. They spun a bit more too, so you could control that second shot. But it's all about that green. It's angled about 45 degrees away from it, from front left to back right. And I would say the back half of that, it's probably 6 paces across.
Is it the smallest green that you've ever played? I've never been there. I've never played this golf course, but on the TV, it looks like it's the most narrow green that I've ever seen in the world.
It's right up there. It's probably the most narrow. It's actually pretty similar to 12 at Augusta through the middle of 12 at Augusta.
Through the middle of 12.
Through the middle of 12.
Where it's 6 steps.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what it's like for the back half of that green at Riviera. And the other thing is it's like an upside-down saucer. It sort of feeds away both ways. Scott Piercy, I watched him go bunker to bunker to bunker about 3 or 4 times, and he almost lost the plot on that hole.
So if you hit 4 or 5 on off the tee... Why? It's obviously not the thing to do anymore, especially on the Sunday.
It's just so hard.
You've just got to land it in a 2 metre space.
When the greens are softer, you can do that, and you lay it back. You can hit the wedge on. I used to do that a bit, and depending on where the pin was, would depend on my strategy. So for that back right pin, I always found laying back or sort of getting it as far left as you possibly can was the key, without going into the trees on the left was a good angle.
One thing all the players were saying, and I really want to get your opinion, they're saying it's the fairest test in golf. This golf course, Riviera. Yeah, the fairest test. It's not tricked up. It tests the players the most without them tricking up the course Augusta style or, St Andrews style or whatever it may be. So 15 under or 16 under was the winning score. Is that right? 17 under, something like that. But they're saying universal respect of the golf club. Do you see it that way?
I have a different opinion because I never played well there. I hated the place. No, it was just a very difficult golf course for me because you got the Kikuyu fairways. It was soft, so you didn't get much run, and the greens were quite firm, and they had these upside down sources a lot of the time. So I was hitting long clubs in, and I couldn't hold the greens. I mean, the fourth hole, the short par, is it the fourth? The not the short, the very, very long par 3.
245 yards, I saw it.
Ben Hogan, there's a little plaque there. He calls it the best par 3 in America.
What would he know?
I mean,
come on.
Trust me, this is not a good hole. It's not a good hole. You land it on the green, you go long, you land it short, and it stops. It's crazy. So
I saw Jon Rahm hit. I saw he's in the bag this week. So the longest iron that he's got in his bag was a 4-iron. 4-iron. And he hit an iron. And he hit it as hard as he possibly could. It landed 6 foot on the front edge and rolled the length of the green. So God knows what anybody else, like a mere mortal, has to do. I mean, I'd be cutting up a 3-wood.
I think that hole is, I mean, I'd love to look up the stats. It'd be the lowest percentage of greens in regulation on tour, I reckon, that particular hole right there.
Righto. So when you saw the pictures of Tampon Gate, when you saw the pictures of Tampon Gate, what was going through your mind? I mean, when I saw it, I thought, what the hell are you doing carrying a tampon? 1.
Well, that's the first thing I thought.
Yeah. 2, did you think you were going to get away with it when every camera on the planet was focused on you?
Yeah. He's always had that, I guess, that sense of humour of a 14-year-old kid type thing, a teenager basically. And it was, it's his first event back. I mean, just do the right thing.
And he's the host. He's the host. He's the host of the event.
Setting a great example. I know it's a joke and I get it. It's boys being boys and all that sort of stuff. But, I mean, that
do it
was
on Tuesday.
He has that gutterish, in the gutter type thing.
He's
One
a
of
mad
the boys.
swearer.
Yeah.
I know. He's a mad, like the times, and no one believes this, but I used to warm up next to him. When he played in Australia, for whatever reason, I was either hitting before him or right after his group. So we're always down there, and I was always curious. So if I saw him there, I'd go down and I want to practice next to Tiger Woods. And my God, what was coming out of his mouth, honestly, every single swear word, and one particular one that is the baddie, that was the big one. I mean, that was every second sentence. So he's got that in him. We know that, but my God.
A lot of the top players do, don't worry. They let it out as well.
Yeah. So if you don't know why it was slipped, I mean, let's talk about his game while we've got the opportunity. He was hitting it past JT and Rory McIlroy. The guy can hardly walk, and he's hitting it past them with a tiny little short swing. It doesn't look like the shaft lines are where he wants them to be, and he was still... The ball was coming out with 180 miles per hour ball speed.
I heard, he was ripping it. And to be honest, it doesn't surprise me because he works so hard in the gym, and it must have been all upper body strength for how he was getting it out there, because obviously the lower body's taken a bit of a pounding over the last several years. So his tee to green play was exceptional, as per usual. It was a little bit rusty in places, and the putter didn't work in some occasions, but great to see him back out playing.
Can I tell you this? I picked it up, so I had to leave when this round was happening, but I looked at it, and he was past the cut line. So the cut line was even par or 1 under or whatever it was when I saw that, and he was over par, and he had loser's limp going. He was limping badly. And then I've seen the last 6 holes when he started the fire of the last 3 holes. That limp disappeared so quickly when he started making birdies. And then, as well as anybody, the walk from 18 up to the clubhouse is as steep as you've ever seen.
Brutal.
He was gliding up that hill.
Really?
So I don't know what he was doing limping at 10, 11 and 12, but that disappeared once he started playing good.
It's funny what birdies will do to you, right?
That is exactly right.
Yeah, all of a sudden the injuries go, and then when you start making bogeys, everything hurts.
Okay, let's talk about the FootJoys. Now, seriously, I wear FootJoys. They're the best golf shoe in the world. I really love them. And I've always loved them, ever since I was a kid. The FootJoy, what do we used to call them, classics, with the spikes and the leather sole.
You get them wet and they weighed a ton.
They weighed, that's exactly right. But they were always the best golf shoes you could see. I remember being a little kid. I was 15 years old, and this guy called Darren Cole, who ends up being one of the good
Coley.
coaches. Darren Cole came back from Mississippi State, and he had a pair of FootJoys. They were just a saddle, but it was red, shiny leather saddle. Yeah, so what do you call it? It was the best thing. I can remember just looking at those shoes with drool coming out of my mouth going, oh, my God, look at these things. You know, I had the nibbling, the worst looking shoes you've ever seen with the water flap on the top of them, and it was this guy. So they've always been the best. Tiger used to always wear them too. You can't tell me that Nike can't make him a pair of shoes that support what's going on at the moment. I reckon he's just wearing them because he likes the look of the new icons. And I really mean that. And that is the biggest slap in the face of all time to Nike.
Yeah, last year I think he came out and said, well, he has a lot of mobility issues with his leg and he needs stability in his feet and all this. So I know. Yeah. And you think, well, okay, that's the wake-up call for Nike to obviously design him something appropriate. But that was almost a year ago. And then you figured this tournament, surely you'll have Nikes on. But no, you had the FootJoy. So I can't answer that question why, but you're probably right. He just prefers the FootJoys.
I reckon he just prefers the FootJoys.
And he's probably got a contract where he can do whatever he wants.
Jason Day not looking too bad. Made a few, I think he made 6 birdies and 6 bogeys on round 3, in round 3.
Yeah,
so
he was close to another
bogeys.
top 10, I believe. So.
Yeah, somewhere like it. But he's getting closer.
He's playing good golf. I mean, another Nike player. He's wearing the Nike shoes. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, I didn't check his feet out all week actually, but he's on a good run, and I think he's close. I think he's close to maybe putting up a big W.
Now I know this is true that a couple letters have been written to Netflix, coming straight from us, because they released their show when we released our podcast. So I thought that was dirty pool to begin with.
Timing.
I thought that was poor. But I know I've watched 3, and I know you've watched the whole lot of them.
I did it all in like a day. I thought it came out and I had nothing to do that. I was doing stuff around the house, and I watched the first one. It was JT, Spieth, and all this. And I thought, okay, it's not too bad. And then they had maybe a Brooks Koepka one.
Brooks.
That's probably, that one and the Joel Damon episode are probably the 2 best episodes. And the funny thing is, Brooks, we all heard about him going to live and what happened before it.
Yeah.
He and his image has always been that macho, I don't care, I don't really practice, all this sort of stuff. But he basically was so vulnerable through that episode. It was actually kind of eye-opening to see the struggles he was going through. And we've all been there where you go, I have no clue if I can hit a good golf shot again. As a professional golfer, that happens once in a while. And then you have times where you think, I'm never going to hit another bad shot. This is so easy, and he's obviously seen both ends of the spectrum, and he spoke about Scheffler and how he wasn't thinking about anything as the number 1 player in the world. I want to get back to that sort of mindset. The disappointing thing was, from the Netflix perspective, was they never really went deep on when they turned. They went from PGA Tour to live, and when I'm saying turn, I mean they went across to the other side, I guess you could say. Yeah. So for the whole series I guess myself, I understand what happens inside the locker room on the golf course. I know a lot of those guys.
Get it.
I have a different perspective. So for me, it wasn't all the hype that obviously everyone was.
What were you wanting to see?
What did you want to see? A bit more drama. I mean, you saw Poulter throw the clubs in the locker room, but I reckon he's turned around going, is the camera there? Is the camera there?
Yeah,
and then threw it, you know what I mean? So that was all a bit staged for me. And, missing cuts and getting on private jets. I mean, the poor guys, how do they live with themselves,
So that's your perspective.
Yeah.
I never got to the PGA Tour. I always wanted to, but I never got there. And I was just, I loved it.
Did you?
I really thought it was brilliant. The first one with JT and Spieth and just their back and forth, 14-year-old style, having a crack at each other in practice rounds and betting here and going to pick the card off the top of the thing and I'll give you $1,000. All that sort of stuff, I can take or leave it. Mm-hmm. But I got lost in watching the wealth that they have accumulated in a short period of time. Like neither of them are 30 yet. Are they? JT, Spieth, they're not 30 yet. And just their lifestyle, I couldn't wait to see the next one. So the next one comes, it's Brooks Koepka. And, of course, he's got the actress wife. And he's talking to the actress wife about how bad things are going for him at the moment. And he's, all he's thinking about is Scheffler. And the wife has showed him these, this is my over bikini dress that I'm taking. And,
He's sitting on a fluffy swing as
Yeah,
well.
sitting on the fluffy swing out the back, his house. Now, you go to the best suburb in any city in Australia and pick the best house. Brooks Koepka is living in it.
Yeah.
So just looking at the house was just unbelievable. The pool out the back with the sunken
lounges,
lounge
infinity
next
pool.
to a pool.
It was impressive.
Unbelievable.
The other thing, I think, if you do watch it, you must think to yourself, does every golfer live in Jupiter, Florida? I mean, every episode, they're cutting back to Jupiter. And she's sitting there and she's showing him, the whatever it is, this is the one which will go over the bikini. And he's kind of going, oh, yeah, oh, no. And all he's thinking to himself is, why can't I fix my goddamn golf swing?
Why can't I putt like Scheffler? Why can't I putt like Scheffler? That fascinated me. And to see Ian Poulter. So Ian Poulter, I wanted to see more decision-making from going to the PGA Tour to Live. That's the thing that I reckon they missed. So far I've only seen episode 1, 2 and 3.
Yeah. Well, they never show it all the way through.
Well, at the end they're asking, they asked Koepka, are you going to Live? And he wouldn't say anything, he just smiled.
Gave a bit of a look.
And then the same thing happened with Poulter. So I'm really hoping in episode 4 onwards, I want to get into the nitty-gritty of why they went. Now, Poulter, it seemed, was, he couldn't win a match in the match play. He didn't get into the Masters.
Yeah.
He was playing poor golf, clearly on the wrong side of the bell curve in his career. If he's offered $20 million a year for 4 years to go to Live, you got to go.
Totally understand.
You got to go.
Yep.
Absolutely got to go. Koepka, I couldn't get over.
He was at that tipping point where he was thinking, I don't know if my game is any good anymore. I'm not sure if I can compete against these guys.
Yeah, that's right. But this is Brooks Koepka, the toughest dude, wearing spikes, soft spikes.
Apparently he's not that tough
He's
the way
not
he
that,
spoke.
He didn't seem that tough.
No.
So that was really, really interesting to me, just the way he handled it and the amount of practice and the amount of technical stuff. The technical stuff that he was doing on the carpet at home while his wife, is showing him dresses and what they're going to do in the holiday. I just could what fantasy world are they living in? And then they'd show him putting and he just kept on missing putts after putt after putt and his hands were in the air. All this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I really thought that access was brilliant. And it showed you the turmoil, even though he's won 4 majors in a 3-year stretch at one stage, that no matter what level golfer you are at, you're always thinking about your game. Oh. And when when things aren't going well, you just don't think it's ever going to come back.
Going to get better. So you haven't seen the Damon episode, right? The Joel Damon?
Which one's that?
I'm not going to, I don't know. It's in the middle there somewhere. Right. I'm not going to spoil it for you. I probably spoiled a couple of things already, given you my opinion. But watch that one. I really like it. And just his self-deprecation is brilliant.
Yeah, okay. And the other thing, my other takeout from episode 3, Ian Poulter has more pants than any other human in the history of the world. I scrolled through it because I knew what was coming. There were so many pants and I kept fast forwarding and it would never end. Well, that'll do us. We're going to walk off this 9th tee. We're going to come back on the 10th where after we get our tee shots there, your top 5 of the best short par 4s in the whole world, and also our first lot of feedback on the program. So we got feedback. I'm not sure it's going to be mean tweets. not at this stage, but we're not far off. So that's coming up next.
You're listening to Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen. This is Talk Birdie To Me.
Come on, pull the driver out. Let's get going. 10th hole coming up. Now, I know we're talking about top 5s, but we've missed something, and we planned for it to be at the start of the program, but we just kept on going about other stuff. But all the Live signings, let's go through it because Live Golf starts this week.
It does, yeah. There's been...
Give us some names.
Okay. We're going to go with... An interesting one was Thomas Peters, first off the bat, number 34 in the world. Didn't get into Riviera, and he tweeted about it. Now, there is... exemption categories and all that to get into this elevated event. One of them being if you played a Ryder Cup, and funnily enough, now that he's signed for Live, he will probably never play a Ryder Cup, so he's not going to be playing any more Rivieras or anything. So he's probably the best one.
Can I give you, there's 5 levels of surprise. That's a level 4 surprise for me that Thomas Peters has pulled the trigger on Live. I would have thought he'd hung. He's a young bloke, hits it unbelievable. I reckon he could have won a major first and then pulled that trigger.
Easily could have won major, I
Yeah.
reckon. Yeah,
So
he's got the game.
level 4 surprise that he's pulled that trigger.
Well, that's interesting. All right. And then there's Brendan Steele. I don't know what level that would be.
Level 1.
Okay, yeah.
No surprise.
He actually said last year, well, if you do go to live to the players that were going, don't expect to come back on our tour. Yeah. So he won't be expecting to come back to the PGA Tour anytime soon. Danny Lee, the New Zealander.
Level 1 surprise.
Not a surprise there.
Yeah,
and then if you've watched the Netflix series, no surprise here, Mito Pereira and Sebastian Munoz.
Yeah.
Because they're good mates with Jochen Neiman and Carlos Ortiz, who are already on the Live Tour. So I think they're combining for their own little team. Might be Team Talk, I think.
Team Talk?
Team Talk. T-O-R-Q-U-E.
Like talk as in a talk of a shaft.
And the other news, which might be a talk of a shaft in a different sense, is Jed Morgan is replacing Wade Ormsby on the Ripper team, which is the Aussie team.
So what happens? I really like Wade Ormsby. He's a good bloke and a good player, and I want to see him do well in golf. What happens to him now?
I have absolutely no idea, Mark. I don't know what happens to these players that get pushed out. I
had one role to find out this week about where the Australian Open's played. My role next week will be to find out about Wade Ormsby.
Perfect.
So that's my job. Just before we go to your top 5 of the greatest ever short par 4s that you've ever played, I can tell you this. They're announcing it next week. So I know which courses, I know which courses the Australian Open will be played on. I'll happily say one of them's the Australian, because that won't be a surprise to anybody, but just not the surprise that the other one's on the course where I had my best ever finish in the Australian Open.
Oh, well done.
So if you really need to know,
you're going to have to do some digging.
Go and look that up one way or another.
What did you finish, about 30th?
I don't want to spoil the surprise because we are doing the show. We're doing the show from Australian Golf headquarters, and I don't want to step on their toes.
Okay.
So you'll find out next week. But again, the Australian and where I had my best finish.
Top 10, was it?
6th.
Oh, well done.
6th. Okay. But Nick, it was the greatest field ever assembled in Australia. you should have seen the field at this Australian Open, mate.
It was like a major, wasn't it?
It felt like Okay. Can we get some special music, please? Nick O'Hearn's Top 5.
Okay, yes, the top 5 this week of some of the best short par 4s that I have played. The reason we're doing it is obviously because of Riviera.
Yes.
The 10th hole, that may or may not be in the list. I can tell you it will be, but anyway. So this is a controversial one, starting at number 5. This is 5.
Thank you.
Number 10 at the Belfry.
Oh, that's where Seve knocked it on.
Seve knocked it on in one of the Ryder Cups. I used to play the Benson and Hedges International there. A lot of people going, really? But I loved the hole. It was great. It was either a 7-iron wedge or you had to try and hit this left to right shape for me, a draw through the trees. There was a creek running in front of it. I love the hole. It's just a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
If you want to see what we're talking about, Google Seve 10th at the Belfry, and you'll see one of the most amazing swings, and he knocks it on with an old wooden driver.
Big high cut through the trees.
It is so good.
Only the bold dare take out the wood and go for it. In 1978, the bold Ballesteros tried it and made it.
Have a look at the swing, Nick.
That follow through. Oh my gosh. Look at the trees he's got to go around and through.
And there's a bit of TPC sawgrass. Because they got the railway sleepers at the front of the green.
Oh, what a golf shot. Unbelievable.
Imagine playing him. You're in the Ryder Cup and he pulls out driver and does that. Must have been in one of the 4-ball matches, I reckon.
Yeah, he would have been with Jose Maria Olazabal, no doubt.
So, number 4.
Number 4 is a fan favourite of locals here in Australia, I would imagine. Number 15 at Victoria Golf Club.
I would have been disappointed if you didn't find room for this.
Yeah, it's in there. Now, the order of this is, subjective because it's just an opinion. It's like my favourite red wines. It's just an opinion. Don't worry.
I promise you we'll get feedback on our socials, Manny. So
I'm sure we will.
Get ready.
All right, number 3 is 10 at Riviera that we just saw.
Got it at number 3.
Got it at number 3. It's a controversial hole. I loved it. Never made double there, which was always fun. Made a couple of bogeys, but made the old birdie. I don't think I ever made eagle, though, but I just loved the hole. It's a lot of fun. Number 2, this could have 3 on the list, but I'm only going to go with 1.
3?
Could have 3 of their holes on the list.
Go on.
The Old Course St Andrews, number 12. Great
number 12.
Short par 4.
Is it drivable?
Yes,
yeah,
drivable.
it is. I know.
Yeah, even for me, downwind. Has to be downwind though. I can get there. It's just a great hole. If you ever go down that hole at night, you'll fall into bunkers without even knowing it because they're just hidden. Basically,
is that one of the crisscross holes? Or is it next to the crisscross holes?
It's next to 11 green. And number one, which is kind of probably no surprise, my favourite short par 4 in the world happens to be here in Australia, number 10 West at Royal Melbourne. Great hole. Great hole. Just perfect for a high fade for a left-hander.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
So where's your aiming point? A lot of people would know 10 West at Royal Melbourne. My aiming point was always just over the right-hand edge of the deepest bunker in the world.
Yeah, and then I just cut it from there. And if I hit it straight, I'm not long enough to get into those tea trees past there, but if I cut it just perfectly over there, get around the front edge for me.
Well, are you metres or yards, man? It was I even remember it was 227 yards.
Oh, really? To carry the bunker?
To carry that little bit of it.
Gosh, you do know. They might have lengthened it since then. I don't know.
Would that top 5 change if you were a right-hander versus a lefty that you are?
No, I don't think so. I mean, obviously the high fade is a nice, easier shot to hit with a bit more control, but then I've got Belfry on where I've got to hit a big swinging draw. So, but that's at number 5 as well. Honourable mentions, I will say, is 15 at TPC Highlands, where they have the Hartford tournament, and also 17 at Scottsdale. 17 at Scottsdale, where they just had the Waste Phoenix Management Open. So, yeah, but lefty-righty, nah, no change.
Okay, you ready for some feedback from our socials? These are tweets to the editor.
Okay, as long as they're good.
So a lot of the feedback, Nick, was based on the headline, Should live golfers be allowed back on the PGA Tour? That was one of the headlines. Some people listened to it, some people didn't listen to it. So this one's from Andrew Kirby. Andrew Kirby, who I know very, very well, used to be the captain of Royal Melbourne. He said this. Now I want you to get your view. I'd say in a few years there will be trades between the two tour leagues and a Super Bowl-style live versus PGA Tour event. Can you see that happening?
No, not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
That's pretty simple for me, because the PGA Tour has no incentive at the moment to deal with live.
Question 1A, and this is on behalf of Andrew Kirby.
Okay.
Would you watch a live versus PGA Tour Ryder Cup style event?
Yeah, probably would actually.
Yeah,
I probably would.
I am definitely in.
Do you think there'd be some sledging going on?
Oh, my God. It would be enormous.
It would be interesting.
One of the things that we put up in our podcast last week was we both prefer the 4-round test versus a 3-round test. Now, some people got it mixed up saying that we were talking about 4th-round pressure, which we weren't. We were just talking about more that, you're more likely to throw in one bad round a week if there's 4 rounds. So, John Conrad has written in, it's not the 4th round that tests the player's mettle. It's the final round that does. Live events have a final round, just like all other tournaments do. Not sure why Nick finds a shotgun start more conflicting than he can resolve. All players on the course, great for viewers. You want to respond?
That is interesting. Well, the shotgun start is just it's just not in my wheelhouse. No. I want coming up the final green, there's something about playing a tournament and you play that final hole in front of all the gallery. You've just gone through hell for about 4.5, 5 hours, or maybe it was the best day of your life. I don't know, but you finish in style. You don't want to finish out on the 4th hole, and then you know what the worst thing is? You got to walk all the way back in.
No, it's a nightmare.
Thank you.
You want to finish where the grandstands are.
Absolutely.
So if you've shot a 64, you can look up in the crowd. Everyone knows you shot a 64. They give you a clap and you feel nice.
Yeah, beautiful.
One more from Seymour Cup. I'm sure that's his name. Do you also feel the same way about match play at events, lads? After all, it's not a true test if it's not over 72 holes.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
That's all you know.
They've only got really one, haven't they?
Yeah, that's right.
Except for the team events in the Presidents and Ryder Cups.
And by the way, I love the way the PGA Tour are doing the World Match Play. It used to be called the Accenture World Match Play. Now it's in Austin, Texas. They have a World Cup style.
Do you like that, do you?
I like it.
I don't agree with that.
Okay, so why is that? So I'll tell you why I like it.
Okay.
Because if Tiger Woods is playing, you get to see him play for at least 3 days. And then so if he gets, if someone like Nick O'Hearn beats him in the first round, right?
There we go.
If Nick O'Hearn beats him in the first round, you've ruined it for everybody. Everyone wants to see Tiger. So I don't mind that.
I'll tell you, the most popular I've ever been in the locker room after beating Tiger Woods the second time was when I walked back in the locker room and everyone's gone, thank you.
Right, it is time for the tournament report. I like this because I want to know what the Australians are doing, if there's ever been some good results. What have you got for us, Dick?
We got a few results. Obviously, Jason Day did very well over in Riviera, but Jon Rahm beat Homer down the stretch. We all know that. On the Ladies European Tour, they had the Aramco Saudi Ladies International.
Anyone
Not
getting
an
upset?
Australian, but a New Zealander one, Lydia Ko.
Oh, she's a
First
gun.
win as a married woman.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
When did she get married?
I think in December, just before Christmas, but she's won 3 of the last 4 events.
I reckon Lydia Ko makes the game look easier than anybody else playing.
I tell you, one of the best short games in the world. We might have to do a top 5 on that as well, by
Top
the way.
5 short games in the history of the world?
Definitely.
Can I look after that one next week, please?
Oh, there you go. Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, okay. All
Absolutely. But Steph Kyriakou was our best Aussie, tied 50th, so, back of the field, but that's okay. She made the cut. DP World Tour, Thailand Classic, Thorburn Olesen, who maybe had troubles on the airplane.
Yes.
quite a while ago. We'll talk about that another time.
Does he fly privately these days, or what happens?
Maybe, yeah, but he won that one. Aaron Pike, best Aussie, tied 46.
Good.
They had the Asian Tour International Series in Qatar. Andy Ogletree won, interestingly enough, US Amateur champion. So
well, he's been
his
battling,
second win.
and Liv gave him a few starts, which was really good.
Yep.
And it's very, very good to see him playing
He's
well.
playing some good golf. Best of the Aussies was Travis Smythe, finishing in 7th position.
Right, yeah, that's good.
And if you do well up there now, the Asian Tour, they have this international series that gets you onto Liv.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of incentive for the guys up there. Also, I got to mention on the Champions Tour, Bernard Langer, 45th win on the Champions Tour. Age 65, he shot his age or better twice in 3 rounds, 54-hole event. Shot 64, 70, 65. How good is that?
It's just ridiculous.
Is
That's stunning. I remember last year when he turned 64 or 63, must have turned 64. He actually shot 63 on the day on his birthday.
Right.
I mean, it's ridiculous what this bloke's doing.
He's a freak. But he's tied Hal Irwin for the most ever, 45 wins. So the next one, he'll be the record holder.
Yeah,
So
just on that, there's a bit of a history there. One of my favourite stories in the whole world of golf. This is Peter Thompson. Peter Thompson was 53 years old as I am. He went and played a couple of tournaments when he was 52, and he heard in the locker room Peter Thompson was not that good. He heard it. So he sharpened his tools up over summer, went back and played with a wooden club at 53 and won 9 events in the year just to show him who's boss at the age of 53.
9.
One of my great, I love
Might have
that
been
story.
10, I don't know.
It was 9. It was a world
9.
record at the time.
Oh my
It was a world
gosh.
record,
How
but I
good's
went
that?
back at 53, hadn't been playing much with the wooden clubs and cleaned everybody up.
That's incredible.
I love that story.
Who said that?
No, he didn't name who said that in the locker room.
Okay, interesting.
I'll endeavour to find out. Right.
And then on the local front, obviously you and I, we did the TV commentary over the weekend for the TPS Sydney event. David Micheluzzi put on an absolute clinic on the Sunday. He was 9 under for 9 holes at
9
one
under
point.
for 9 holes. You
So-
don't often see that.
No.
And look, I know the golf course isn't the toughest in the whole world, but it's not a 9 under in 9 holes course either. No way in the world.
And in the interview afterwards, he said, my swing felt awful for
Yeah.
the first 8 holes.
Yeah.
And then he goes 9 under the next 9. Shot a 61 to defeat, who was it? Dean Lawson and Daniel Gale.
And did it without an 8-iron. And that was an 8-iron course.
And he did it without an 8-iron. That's
without an
right,
8-iron.
61. Who needs 14 clubs,
by the way, we don't have the tour van at the TPS events, so he couldn't really get the new 8-iron done. But wouldn't you have gone into the loft and lie machine and just, put an extra, taken 2 degrees off his 9-iron or something?
Yeah, maybe just to
That's
even
what I
it
would
up.
have done. Yes, even
So he would have had an 8.5 iron or something.
that's
Change
right.
the number, yeah. So, but we saw a lot of different action over the weekend, and also in that regard, Ryan Wu won the junior section because you have the juniors,
Yes.
and then in the All Abilities, Jeff Nicholas defeated Cameron Pollard. So
Just
great
on Ryan
result.
Wu, we got the new
How good.
term, plum balling.
Plum balling.
Yeah,
yes.
not plum bobbing, plum balling. Watch, look, it'll be going around this week on Foxtel. Have a look at the TPS City event. You're going to see Ryan Wu, and he plum balls his putts. Remarkable. Time for the Masterclass.
Well, we saw some amazing putting on the weekend from David Micheluzzi, but also Jon Rahm at Riviera in the Genesis Invitational. One thing that I really noticed about his putting, hold the long bomb you spoke earlier about, Mark, on 14. That never looked like missing. And he made a good 2-putt on 15. 16, hit a wonderful iron shot in there, made another birdie putt there, just short one down the hill. But if you notice about his putting action, he has a very fast tempo to the stroke. And what that means, tempo is all about the time it takes for once you take the putter head back to when you hit the ball. So there's a tempo in that regard. Slower tempos would be someone like, say, back in the day, Lauren Roberts, Ben Crenshaw. If you know your history there. On the women's side, Inbee Park has a slightly slower tempo, I'd say. On the men's side, Patrick Cantlay, they're on the slower sides. On the faster sides, it'd be someone like Charlie Hull on the LPGA Tour, or Brandt Snedeker, very poppy type style of stroke. So Jon Rahm has a faster tempo, meaning his stroke's quite short and it's very quick. And the key to it is to try and match the backswing in the follow-through, in the speed and the distance you take it back and through. That's the real key, to match both the backswing and the follow-through. If you take it back short and you go through long, that doesn't work very well. Very bad for distance and control on the green. So if whatever your tempo is, whether it's fast or slow, just try and match the backswing and the follow-through. If you have a slower tempo, your stroke's going to be longer. A faster tempo, your stroke's going to be shorter. Very simple.
All right, the video will be up on our socials. Good on you, Nick, and I'll see you next week.
Cheers.
That's been Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen's brand new podcast, Talk Birdie To Me. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. And don't forget to send us a message or a comment. We always need your input in our tweets to the head of the segment, which ironically aren't always tweets. We might not have thought that through enough. Talk Birdie To Me's executive producer is Dan Bradley at Kaizen Media. Sound design by Daryl Misson at loudzebra.com.